assembly of equals joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Then in an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. The host of Herein Lies the Peace of God is Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert, the President Minister of Awakening Together. Our co-host is your favorite anarchist preacher, Reverend Glen Ganaway, integral scholar. The Course in Miracles says this about discerning one truth. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God.
Sing glory, glory, hallelujah. How wonderful thy holy name. Now I can see with God's own vision, and I see peace instead of pain. Yes, I see peace instead of pain. I can see peace instead of pain. Amen.
And what does Jackie always say? Yes. Our wee doggies have to get our wee doggies in there, or it's not. Herein lies the peace of God.
All right.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. Before we start, I want to thank Shauna for that for that lovely musical introduction. We had summertime songs tonight, and they were all fabulous. Thank you, Shauna.
I always turn in early to find out what the playlist is going to be.
Yeah, she's an excellent DJ, admin /
If you're 58, I'm really enjoying it. I know the words to all of these songs.
Yep.
Now, if you want to go through the Billie Eilish and the years and years, catalog, I probably won't be able to keep up. What do you think about open mind? We're going to do open-mindedness tonight.
It's perfect. It's what a great characteristic to end this this series on. I mean, really, it is. It's perfect.
I was shocked. It was like, oh, this is like where I've been going for about a couple of months, really. I mean, since I started down this really journey of really trying to be present to what I'm actually experiencing, being undeceitful about the information that I think I'm getting from the world. I'm mad, angry, lonely, tired, really like having, not censoring, not trying to hold myself or not trying to be a certain way, right? To perform. I've been in this kick about like what would I be like? Who would I be if I really didn't try to perform, try to hold back so much? Because a lot of my stuff is like these blocks of awareness, right? So I'm holding back for me. So to do this whole thing with the chastising people on the street and returning people's garbage, has been a journey, has really been a wonderful journey for me to like say, how am I going to own and like be myself in the world in a way that I'm not imagining or didn't create, one that is already here. How do I stop trying to create myself and start trying to really express myself in this? So I've been getting to this concept of open-mindedness without really like having that as a goal in and of itself. So to wind up this whole thing, and then we're going to go on a break, and we'll talk about that in a minute, I'm sure. But it's like to do that and end up at open-mindedness is like you said, pretty nice, and it's like puts a bow on it,
It does. Yeah. It's sweet. Wraps it all up, puts a bow on it. Perfect. Yeah.
How about you this week? Like you said, you mentioned the open-mindedness was like a wonderful synchronicity
well,
for you as well.
And I got to tell you that just like you just said, it's like all roads lead to Rome, right? I mean, it's always the lesson, whether or not I read it in print. The lesson.
Oh yeah.
The lesson is always the same, and you and I track pretty closely about what our lessons are, even before we started doing this program.
Yeah.
But it's not just us.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It's the whole world. The whole world is on this lesson right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've just seen it. I've seen it and heard it everywhere. And it's the perfect lesson. It's the ultimate lesson, actually, as she indicates here. This is as far as the course takes you, is to this open-mindedness.
It's the reason for the curriculum. All these other things, this isn't what we're going to concern ourselves. She winds up this section going, we're not going to talk about any of that other stuff. She pulls the baby out of the bathwater and says, this is what we're going to do, and that's it. We're gonna. I love it's just so ethical. It's just like absolutely foundationally ethical for a book to say this is what this is about. This is the only thing it's supposed to do.
That's right. Yeah, it's not like going to solve all your problems in one day, right?
I know. It doesn't. Yeah. So that's really wonderful. That's really wonderful as well.
Shall I read? I think I read.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Shauna was the one. Actually, we're going to make Shauna the gatekeeper.
Shauna, I read and teach her.
I think you're supposed to. I think you read and toss to me this time, but I'm not sure.
Shauna says I'm right.
I thought you read last time, didn't you, Jacquelyn?
I don't know. I thought he read last time.
Okay.
I think I read last time.
Okay, go ahead, Jacquelyn. I can't remember.
We won't make you responsible.
Yeah, we got to be responsible for something. Oh, wait, everything. Right.
Yeah.
As the course tells us. Okay, so let me get a drink and then I'll read this to us, and then you can tell us about it, Glenn.
Oh well, I'm just going first. I'm the first one to like fall on get the rake. That's all.
Okay, here we go. This is, of course, Manual for Teachers, the characteristics of God's teachers, and this is section 10, open-mindedness. The centrality of open-mindedness, perhaps the last of the attributes the teacher of God acquires, is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. Open-mindedness comes with lack of judgment. As judgment shuts the mind against God's teacher, so open-mindedness invites him to come in. As condemnation judges the Son of God as evil, so open-mindedness permits him to be judged by the voice for God on his behalf. As the projection of guilt upon him would send him to hell, so open-mindedness lets Christ's image be extended to him. Only the open-minded can be at peace, for they alone see reason for it. How do the open-minded forgive? They have let go all things that would prevent forgiveness. They have, in truth, abandoned the world and let it be restored to them in newness and in joy so glorious they could never have conceived of such a change. Nothing is now as it was formerly. Nothing but sparkles now which seemed so dull and lifeless before. And above all are all things welcoming, for threat is gone. No clouds remain to hide the face of Christ. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. It paves the way for what goes far beyond all learning. The curriculum makes no effort to exceed its legitimate goal. Forgiveness is its single aim, at which all learning ultimately converges. It is indeed enough. You may have noticed that the list of attributes of God's teachers does not include things that are the Son of God's inheritance. Terms like love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth do not appear in this context. They would be most inappropriate here. What God has given is so far beyond our curriculum that learning but disappears in its presence. Yet while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the curriculum. It is the function of God's teachers to bring true learning to the world. Properly speaking, it is unlearning that they bring, for that is true learning in the world. It is given to the teachers of God to bring the glad tidings of complete forgiveness to the world. Blessed indeed are they, for for they are the bringers of salvation.
I know. Wish, there should be something, that happens. There should be a group of children that sing after that or something.
Like trumpets or something.
Blessed are they. This whole last paragraph, there's practically a children's choir. She's singing it in this children's choir. I really enjoy her that way. So this is a 10, so it's completion, right? 10.
Oh.
Number 10 is completion.
Trippy, yeah.
Round it up, start again. But start again. 11's a holy number, but so we'll find out. So 11. We'll talk about what 11 is. We're moving on to 11 and what 11 and 4 is, and all this lovely stuff we're going to do. So the central, she says the centrality of everything comes from trust. That's how she sets it up. Everything is coming from trust. We're expanding from trust. All of it's built on trust. You're standing on trust. You're looking at trust. But she says the center of it is open-mindedness. Everything revolves around open-mindedness. So she's created a wheel, kind of for us with these spokes on this wheel, this one cornerstone. She's like lifted up and said, this is, give it a way of looking at that as a structure. I think that's interesting. Just it's a central characteristic, and it's kind of funny. It's the opposite of what you do if you build a wheel. You build the middle first, and you build out from it. She says the last thing that happens is the center appears. You have all the other. You put the rest together, and the center appears. So that's a very interesting idea to me. Because that's where all the power comes. It's you find the location of, we were talking in this week's Wednesday night, the location of the presence, the location of your touchstone. You become self-aware, and all these possibilities become available to you. She begins to talk about exactly that. She says it comes from a lack of judgment, and judgment, she says, shuts your mind to the world. So judgment, I'm beginning to think of as like a door. It's like slamming the door on somebody that I love, or like slamming the door on knowledge or truth or something like that. Judging it is just putting up a door to it. I can open it or not. So I like that metaphor because I like to think in those images. But she says the remedy for that is forgiveness, because it invites. Right? She says it invites. It invites the truth to be. Invites the truth to us. It invites it over our opinion and thinking. So you're talking about something that's going come, and as an invitation versus shutting the door on somebody, like shutting down versus an invitation. That inward and outward looking aspect of it. So and she says, and this is how a peaceful nature is required. You don't project onto other people's, which means you see them as they are, because you're willing to be as you are. So it's like I'm going to be the center. I'm going to try to locate the center and live from the center, So she goes, how do you do that? If you want to be open-mindedness and it hinges on, forgiveness, how do you forgive? And she goes, oh, just forget everything that you know already. Just let go, just like start again, hit the reset button, That's basically what she says. And the way I talk about it is just loosen your opinions about the way things have to be. Can you just just loosen it a little bit, hold your, please want things for the world. We all want good things for the world, right? So want those things for the world, but hold those hows lightly, And so that's the way I kind of teach it, because that's how I have to live. She says, so how do you do this? Well, you let go of the world's plans and the world's opinions, and I call that the hegemony, or like the ego's way of doing things. I call it the, it's short-sightedness, it's self-centeredness, it's, what looks like the easy way. It's what we talked about not too long ago. It's power, pleasure, and possessions. That it looks like a good idea at the time. And she says, so if you can do this, if you can forgive, you can let go. If letting go is forgiveness, if you can do that, if you can live from that, she calls that like living from the center. She goes, you know what the results are going to be? A joy so glorious. How about that? No, I'm gonna shut the doors. I'm slamming the door on a joy so glorious. I'd like to speak with the owner of this temple. This is joy so glorious. Are you kidding me?
No, thank you.
No, thank you. Absolutely. I've shut the door on joy so glorious is when it's come knocking on my door. I know I've certainly done that. Ask Yolanda. So if you can forgive the world, if you can, do this open-mindedness thing, then she says the dull and lifeless sparkle and all things are welcoming. See, there's that relationship again. We're inviting and the world becomes welcoming. And she goes, the threat is gone. You clearly see the face of Christ. Well, that's us. You clearly see yourself. It's like, oh my God, I'm all over the place. I didn't go anywhere, I'm here. I'm this. This is so absolutely specifically marvelous because I want to dance this part in it. And I want the flowers to be the flowers so I can interact with them as the flowers and the stuff. I want to do this thing. I want to dance in this role in God. That's a lovely place to find that center for yourself in the wheel that's spinning with these other ways of being. And that's exactly where she goes with it. She says, in the very end, she talks about, she goes, what God has given so far beyond the curriculum that learning but disappears in its presence. So this is what's cool. Yet, while its presence is obscured, the focus properly belongs on the present, on the curriculum. So this presence that she's getting to is exactly what we talked, see this synchronicity stuff again. We talked about that this week. The presence that she's talking about is from chapter 14, section 10. And that's the section we did this week. So I'm looking at opening up this. And so let me read you something. She says from chapter 14, section 10, the reflection of holiness, in which she expands on the metaphor of this idea. She says, in the temple, holiness waits quietly for the return of them that love it, period. The presence, and it's capitalized, the presence knows they will return to purity and to grace. The presence of holiness lives in everything that lives, for holiness created life. You can become a spotless mirror. You can reflect heaven here. You need but clean the mirror. But leave the mirror clean and clear of all the images of hidden darkness that you have drawn upon it. It's like the presence. It's the presence of God to reflect the God. So to reflect God. So what does God do? He goes, I'm not going to reflect directly on the world. I'm going to reflect on you, and you're going to decide what you're going to do with my reflection. That's really, really an amazing, beautiful. I mean, nothing says love more than, here, take everything I am and do with it whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of amazing. That's really what love is with unholds barred. That would be open-mindedness, right? I've worked a lot with homeless people and stuff, and one of the things that he goes, what are you giving your money? They're only going to buy drugs and alcohol with it. I remember I heard this joke on Twitter. He goes, and he goes, I know, that's all I was going to do with it. You know, you know, you know.
Might as well be them.
You know, it's just so we don't organize this. You know, it just depends on. That's just lovely the way of being. So the presence of. So I want to become a spotless mirror. You need but leave the mirror clean. That's the curriculum. That's what she says. This is all about. If you leave the mirror clean, you reflect God, and it's like then the forgiveness is there. What is forgiveness? Taking the drawings that you're putting on the world, that you're doing on the mirror. It's like smudging and stuff, and so it can't do. It's like stop drawing on the mirror. Your input isn't required. You're the mirror. You're this perfect, incredible, intricate one of a. You have a particular this. You're the reflection. It's you. It's not the mirror isn't a metaphor. You're the mirror and the light, and it's like we end the world in the reflection. It's just absolutely wonderful way of being in relationship with what is. And she calls this open-mindedness. And she says, if you're only the open-mindedness know peace, only the open-mindedness see the face of Christ. Which would be why it would be the center and everything would revolve around it, I guess. But that's what I got for a minute.
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be speaking, but I'm just.
I love this. It was quite lovely. We are the mirror. Yeah, we are the mirror. So that's like from chapter 14. While its presence is obscured, forgiveness removes the blocks. So the function of God's teachers, there it is, to bring true learning to the world. What's true learning? That you already know what's going on here. To unlearn what I know. Basically the same thing. Like unlearn the past stuff and what the rote thinking that we've got. And we're supposed to be this is supposed to be good news. To bring glad tidings. We're supposed to be the bringers of salvation. What are we bringers? Why are we the bringers of salvation, or the members of God, the bringers of salvation? Because we teach people how to find their center. Right? Yeah. And live from who you are and not who the world says you are. Not a religion. It's not a religion. Right. But you will find out you're holy, and it becomes with it's just it's a really lovely bait and switch. A lot what you and I do on Sundays. But that's,
so shall I go?
Yes, please. Thanks.
Well, you stopped and you started.
Well, I forgot I was done with that whole thing, and I did my little rant, and then I had the other part. It was like dangling. It was a piece of thread. I just couldn't.
It was perfect. In fact, I wrote down a couple of things that you said there, Thea. So,
okay.
Let's know.
Good. Oh, wonderful. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, right. Actually, I thought about the TED Talk that we watched last week when you were talking about judgment, shutting off the mind, right?
Oh yeah.
Because she talked about the prefrontal cortex, the wise, loving part of you, of your brain versus the I don't even know if it was a she, maybe it was a he. Anyway, versus the amygdala, the fearful. Judgmental part of you, right? And when one turns on, the other one shuts off.
Oh, I know, yeah.
So,
one room. It's like there's a door. Apparently, there's a door between them.
Apparently, yeah. So I keeping that analogy going. So the centrality of open-mindedness is easily understood when its relation to forgiveness is recognized. You may have heard me say before that. At some point, I don't have it in front of me, but at some point I went through and arrogantly, no, I know really with, I'm teasing about that, because what I was going to say was I went through and redefined the terms in A Course in Miracles, and it opened it up for me, totally opened it up for me. And so, and we've often talked about how learning, how the spiritual path is more of a spiral than a A to B straight line.
Not linear.
Yeah, so there, it's layered. right? And so when I read and that's what I felt like happened for me when I redefined these terms and had A Course in Miracles explode for me, was it felt like, okay, this is a different level on that spiral of learning for me. So when and I didn't do it arrogantly, I did that with inner wisdom. You know, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that stuff up, right? and in such a way that when I inserted those definitions, right, within A Course in Miracles, it was like they were consistent. There was no, it was perfect. It was perfect. So, it's certainly perfect for me at that time, and has informed me ever since. All of which is to say that when we talk about forgiveness. One of the definitions of forgiveness was knowing that all is well all the time. The Course talks about forgiving your brother for what he didn't do, right? Yeah. And it's like, yeah, because there's no problem here. It's only a problem from your perspective. Everything is good. Whatever seemed to happen, it's great. It's great. It doesn't need to be different. And as you know, NTI, and I think the Course itself, it describes the tiny mad idea as this desire to know what it would be like if things were different than they are, different than the truth. And so forgiveness says, no, nothing needs to be different, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is perfect. And so this judgment, it says open-mindedness comes with a lack of judgment. Judgment goes, that should be different, and that should, boy, should you be different, right? I mean, that's what judgment is. It's my opinion that you or that or this or that or anything should be different. And open-mindedness says, no, it's perfect. Doesn't need to be different. And so that moves you into could be called the Christ mind, could be called, being judged by the voice for God on his behalf. It means it's cool, you're cool, everything's cool, nothing needs to be different, right? So this open-mindedness really is the invitation to, and you said it. You said this passage talks to us about our relationship with what is, and our relation and Christ mind relationship with what is is, hey, all that's cool, right? It's loving everything. It's not needing anything to ever be different for any reason. It does not need to be different. It's not just open mind, it's open everythingness, right?
Yeah.
And from that, comes a lack of condemnation, right? From that comes a lack of projecting guilt, a lack of, I'm not guilty and you're not guilty. If everything is cool exactly as it is if I really, really, really know that all is well all the time. So if I'm really practicing forgiveness and allowing things to be just as it is, I am extending Christ's image to everyone around me. I am extending Christ's image to life itself. And only when I go, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, whatever's happening was cool. and I'm being a little facetious here, but
I know.
but when I really, really, really understand that nothing need to be different, that's the peace that passes understanding. Because the world will go, wait a minute, that doesn't look cool to me. I think that needs to be, that and that. And that. And so it really, the ego's mantra is, oh, something's got to change. And it's got to change now. I mean, that is the mantra of the ego. And as we've discussed, it's that thought system is based on that idea that everything must be different. And that's 180 degrees from what's actually the truth, which is nope, nothing does. And only peace extends from that. You can't be guilty. I can't be guilty. No one can be guilty of anything if nothing needs to be different. Let's see. Yeah. So how do the open-minded forgive? They've let go of all things that would prevent forgiveness. And again, you said that forgiveness equals forget everything you know already. Yeah, you think you know something about who you are, who your brother is, what the world is, what it ought to be like. You don't know. You don't know. And you know how you find out? When it shows up, then you'll know. That's how it's supposed to be. I really loved your reading of chapter 14 and the spotless mirror analogy. And you're like, stop drawing on the mirror, which I think is helpful because last week, and I think I read this to y'all last week, Inner Wisdom said to me, stop pushing life around. You have already had your impact on it. Look out there. That is your impact, right? So now you want to get in there and tinker with it some more. Stop it. Just stop it. So, so it's this undoing. It's this taking away the need for anything to be different. This unlearning. We are creators. We are creators. We're always creating. So it's not just a matter of quit creating. It's like, you know what, you've created. Why don't you just sit back and relax for a while? Yeah. Because nothing needs to be different. Let's see. Yeah. So how do the open-minded forgive? They've let go of all things that would prevent forgiveness. All of these ideas about how things should be, all of these expectations, all of these needed outcomes, you let go of that. That is, again, that's the peace. That's where you're sitting in peace without the need to push the world around. They have, in truth, abandoned the world and let it be restored to them. Right? Yeah. It's just like, okay, now I'm just going to watch it and I'm going to see the perfection in everything. And my God, just saying that sentence, brings joy to my heart, right? I am going to see the perfection in everything. And I mean everything. There are people would put parameters. Oh yeah, that's great as long as you don't, kill puppies or something, right? But no, I'm going to see the perfection in everything, because what this world is about is a way for, as I heard recently, consciousness to explore itself. So it's going to explore what it feels like to kill puppies, and it's going to explore what it feels like to wash Jesus' feet. It's going to explore what it feels like to come up and give everybody I see a big hug. I am going to explore everything. And by doing that, I explore myself. Consciousness explores itself 7 billion times, right? And it is glorious. Oh my God. You talk about the human condition and compassion for the human condition and the poignancy of human condition. Who doesn't love reading a great novel? It's crying while you're reading, or watching a great movie, It's like, it's all just juicy, right? It's all poignant. So it's all glorious. And there is joy in that. There is joy in just letting things be as they are without needing to change them. It says nothing but sparkles now, which seems so dull and lifeless before. Yeah, it's the same old, and maybe Joe Schmo makes more money than Jill over here. Who cares, right? Who cares? Well, it's the long, slow march to the grave the other way.
I'll choose sparkles. Sparkles.
Yeah, I'll do sparkles too. Amen. And here it sparkles is like, oh, look at that thing, whatever that thing is.
Right.
Yeah. And again, it's not just the knowledge that everything's perfect. It's also the knowledge that everything's God. So of course it sparkles. Of course it sparkles. No clouds remain to hide the face of Christ. There's no BS ideas. Again, no concepts about how this should have gone or would have gone. None of that. It's all gone. Now is the goal achieved. Forgiveness is the final goal of the curriculum. How could it not be?
Mm-hmm.
How, with that realization, where is there to go? Of course, God takes the final step at that point. You're totally open. You're not going, no, I don't want that God, and I don't want that God, and I don't want that God. It's like, bring it on. Bring it on. I'm ready.
Joy. Joy so glorious.
Yeah. Forgiveness is the single aim of the curriculum, at which all learning ultimately converges. And, that's so cool because don't we go down path after path after path trying to figure this thing out, right? Mm-hmm. And once you've gone down every path, it's like every color put together makes black, right? Or white or something. Anyway, one of those extreme opposites. But it's all been done. Just heard the bare naked lady singing that in my head. But it has. It's all been done. Where else is there to go? What else is there to do? And this doesn't mean that you're not going to be moved to feed the hungry or save the whales. But as you said earlier, Glenn, you're gonna hold that lightly. And you're going to just, put that in your pocket and go about your merry business and do what you do in this light. Hey, let's experience what's already here without creating what you might call karma, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just experience what we're experiencing. Let's look at that last paragraph for a moment.
Good.
Yeah. It's funny because it's funny that it's still number 10 because it seems somewhat disconnected from the it's like it would be more, and it should be different in my mind. It should say conclusion, right?
Addendum or something
of these characteristics of God. But it's like so she's teaching us how to be what we are. Right. And so love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, eternal, that is what we are. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have to teach us how to be. Mm-hmm. I almost said something exactly opposite than what I just said. But, it's like she says, love is beyond what can be taught because love is what you are. Uh-huh. Right. So it's like, just practice this. I promise you will get to there if you just do this practice.
The curriculum.
Right? Yeah, the curriculum. Exactly.
The curriculum.
Yeah, if you just do the curriculum, then you'll go, oh, shoot, wait a minute. I'm love, sinlessness, perfection, knowledge, and eternal truth. Yay! Those are like the diploma that's handed you at the end is that spotless mirror.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But God has given us so far beyond our curriculum that learning that disappears in his presence. There's really nothing to learn. There's really nothing to learn. It's the unlearning. It's the undoing. It's the undoing of the concepts and the belief in the world. The belief in the body senses that says there's suffering and competition and I think she talks to us about that in chapter 28. Do not believe what your body's eyes are telling you. Don't believe the body senses because they're showing you what you wanted to see. What would it be like if everything was different from the truth? This is it, right? So quit trusting those things and trust what I tell you and just do the practice. And once you practice letting everything be what it is, loving everything just as it is, then you're going to go, oh my goodness, I've arrived, right? Mm-hmm. I understand. I am the mirror. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm not what's projected. So I'm done.
I love that. There's a country song out now that's called "Let Me." What you call your imperfections, I call beautiful. If you
Aw,
could let me be your mirror.
sweet. I haven't heard it. I'll have to look for it.
And it's she says and he says I sing this to Yolanda all the time because I'm kind of emotional. She's right over there, so we sing it in the truck together. So he says I'll be your mirror. What you see is imperfections. I call beautiful, babe. What you see is let me be your mirror, and one day you'll see it too. That I was meant for loving someone just like you. The way God made you. That I was made for loving just the way God made you. So
Oh,
I know. So that mirror is real. That mirror is absolutely real. You know. So I prompted me when you were speaking to say, where would if you got on the other side of this thing and you're experiencing, okay, you've decided not to slam the door on glorious joy, joy glorious, Miss Joy Glorious coming through the door. You decided to not slam the door on Joy Glorious. Let her into the temple, and what happens after that? I would say that gives you the clarity, and this was the conclusion of lesson 14. That gives you the clarity to see clearly what is yours to do. That forgiveness is allowed. Says, "Oh, I don't need to be concerned with the trash on the street. It's not mine to do, or I don't need to be concerned with the, I finally etched, I am not your teacher on the inside of my glasses, so that it's a little bit better."
Glenn, don't you have that experience now? Don't you figure out daily what is yours?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the practice of being. The curriculum is how can you stand being yourself in the moment. That's the curriculum. Can you possibly bear being you, a spotless mirror for my love for the world? Can you possibly walk around as a three-dimensional human being and do that in the moment as you, not as your projection of what it should look like or could look like, or all you're learning about what it's supposed to look like, or what you think is going to be the right effect, or managing the marketing, or putting that's good. Claw back all that way to manage the world. I loved what you said at the very beginning. Give up. That's a beautiful statement. Give up trying to manage the world. It's beyond, I always say it's beyond my pay grade. I'm in charge of this part of the pond. I'm not in charge of the plan. You need to talk to somebody else if you want to talk,
Right.
And it's dangerous to talk to somebody who says he's got the plan.
And
my experience.
And Glenn, when you're operating from that every day, you are in that flow of life, and you may not be sitting in that same living room in 5 years, but it will be because
it'll change your life.
You've gotten into that flow. You go where you are, where you are to go, and you do what you are to do.
You need to let things be exactly where they are because you need to hold on.
You better make sure your hands are free.
Because if you're going to be present and be yourself at all times and try to channel the love of God in your life in a conscious way, at your best, highest skill level, and walk around as an open mind, you can't be really of two minds. You're either like asking Joy Glorious to come in and have tea, or you're like going, "I'm sorry, Miss Joy Glorious, you have to leave because I want to do some things that I don't really want to do in front of you."
That's funny.
And she goes, "Okay, I'll come back, I'll come back."
Yeah, I'll come back whenever you want to.
I'll come back. And she trots out,
Should we invite commentary from our listeners?
Sure, that's great. But I also want to save some moments to say where we've been, because we just completed section 4 of 29.
4 of 29. Oh my God, we're gonna be here for years, which is great.
I looked at it. It was like, I think it's something like that. Yeah. Yeah, 29. We just finished section 4 of 29. So stick with us, children.
Yes, well, and we should say, we should tell people that we're going to take a break for the summer.
That's what I want to get to.
Yeah, and we're going to come back on the Friday after Labor Day. So what is that, like 9/11, I think?
Sure.
Well, that's it.
There'll be an announcement and we will know. We will know.
Yes, yes.
But so we have been through. Can you do you know? I'm cheating because
yes. Yeah, you got your book open.
I've got my book open.
Yeah, I can do an open book. Yeah.
I can. So
Trust.
No. Oh, you think? No, I'm going back. What are the? If this is number 4, what are the first 3? Who are the teachers? Who are the students? And what are the levels of teaching? You know, remember, there's like the levels of teaching. It's like, oh yeah, and that's Tom Glen. That's the people, the strangers, the people that are around a lot and they go and move in groups, and the people that I'm with for a long period of time. Those are the levels of teaching. But generally, there aren't any levels because everybody. You know, there aren't any levels. You know, truly. You know, so and then she says, you know, so what are the God's teachers? And it's the first one is trust. We all know really well, and then we went through 6 stages. There are 6 stages of trust before she even lets you out of the first section of chapter 4. It's kind of funny. So we went through. We had there's stages of trust, and it ends in accomplishment, mirroring and foreshadowing it, which is ending in open-mindedness. I think that's kind of interesting. So trust, honesty. We had tolerance, gentleness, and joy, defenselessness, generosity, patience, faithfulness, and finally open-mindedness. So if you can think about it, if I was open-mindedness being the center of this spoke of,
And you can see that, can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. It supports all of those things.
Yeah, it's just a beautiful way of thinking about it.
Will you read the characteristics of
I'd love to.
God?
Trust, honesty, tolerance, gentleness, joy, defenselessness, generosity, patience, faithfulness, revolving around open-mindedness.
Of course. Perfect. All resting on trust.
All of it resting on trust.
Right. Perfect.
And so, and then we're moving on to section 5 next time. And you hinted at it. We're going to be talking about the body. We're talking about healing. We're going to move into the world. Right?
Well, let's see.
Well, I know it's healing. We're talking about healing, so we're going to talk about healing and sickness and stuff. So we're moving out of this is the characteristics of something of the mind. We're moving into something a little bit more of that includes the body. But yes, let's open it up to anybody that would like to speak to as we wrap up this section.
Reverend Yolanda.
Hey. Well, this whole series has been really, I want to say life-changing. You know, every time we look deeper at these principles, it is life-changing. And where it took the big turn for me is when y'all started talking about defenselessness. And since then, and I'm glad we ended up with open-mindedness, because since defenselessness, I've taken that to a new place, I guess, in my life. It's such a strange phrase, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. I mean, strange to my ego, you know. And I've given intellectuals much knowledge and lip service, I guess, to that concept for, as long as I've been reading A Course in Miracles. Oh yeah, in defenseless is my safety line. But catching the whole scope of that is mind-boggling. I mean, it unravels, to me, it unravels everything in the world, like politics, society, and blah, 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 and da, da, da. I mean, it is possible to unravel all of that. It is possible to live with each other without all the defenses. And and during this time period, I was taking the Kabbalah course, and something that to me really intertwined with all these discussions is the concept I learned in the Kabbalah, where receiving in order to keep for oneself, or receiving in order to share. And receiving to keep only for oneself, to me perfectly describes the ego, and in our language here that we're using. And receiving to share is where it intertwined with me in my defenselessness, my safety lies. Because I think that sharing is dangerous. Or I've been taught that.
Interesting.
So as much as I share with my art and blah, 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 there's always a little reservation. There's always a little piece of me that you don't know, that because if I'm going to share, then something will happen and you won't, I don't know, like me anymore or something. That's usually my big default, whatever. But I've been practicing that. I had to go to Manhattan today and on the subway, and I haven't been in a long time, and sights and sounds and people and just all the noise, and I really took that with me in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so these discussions you've been having have helped me. And I love what Glenn said today, like hold loosely onto some of these things that I tend to hold so dear, so tightly to myself. And so I'm looking forward to when you begin conversing again in September. This is just really helpful to me. So I just wanted to share that, because this is my big takeaway is the defenselessness part of it. So, and now we're at open-mindedness. So yeah, that's where that has led me. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sharing.
It is quite, another way of thinking about it is paving stones as well. You're just leaving it
Paving stones.
Paving stones to a center, like a clearing, like the path to like this clearing or this incredible view would be another metaphor you could use as the stepping stones to open-mindedness, and the view opens. You could certainly make it, steps to a beautiful view.
When Yolanda was talking, I was reminded of, heck, Glenn, it could have been you who told the story, but some teacher telling a story about, a kid, I don't know, got a new bicycle, and some other kid said, "I like your bicycle." And they're like, "Okay, you can have it." Right. And then they came home and the parent went, what have you done? You gave away your new bike. That's not how this world works. Right. But it is. I mean, it is. It's what we've talked about before. It's what you just talked about, Reverend Yolanda. It's expansiveness.
Mm-hmm.
It's expansiveness as opposed to the contraction. And if there's only so much to go around, and if only the smart person or the savvy person or whatever gets it, then yeah, there's lots of reasons to be defensive and combative and competitive. And but again, that's exactly the way exactly the way of sorrow, but it's exactly the opposite way of joy. and in this open-mindedness, knowing that nothing can go wrong, you can't be threatened, and she said that in the first paragraph, right?
Yeah.
You can't be threatened, so hey, let's just see how things work out. There's nothing, there literally is nothing to defend.
So what would you do with that knowledge? It just is, to me, it's such a request for, if you lived this way, you'd be able to take action on a dime, right? Because you wouldn't be hung up on anything, any outcomes, or that you wouldn't be hung up on anything. You'd be able to move and react correct in a really healthy way on a dime. And
in a really healthy way, without without keeping a little bit for yourself.
You'd be able to save the baby, or like do whatever crazy thing that was you were thought at the moment, because you were there. But so it's creating the conditions of peace. So you see where your job is to create the conditions of peace, create the conditions for this to be realized. It's
in a totally selfish way.
Yeah,
I mean, sincerely, because if I do that,
I know, because I'm
guess
experiencing
who gets to be joyous and see things sparkle, and
I know
everybody, but
Joy Glorious and all her sparkles. Yeah, Joy Glorious and all her sparkles going to come to the door, and hopefully you'll open them and let her into your temple.
That's right. Yeah. So, Yolanda, what you said was beautiful, and I really appreciate your sharing your journey with us. It's really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Lynn also wrote a comment on the board. She said, "Thanks again. I needed to be reminded all is well, no matter what, especially now. Always now, right?"
So we're going to come back and talk about healing when we return. I know. We're talking about healing and what it is and what sickness is and everything.
And I'm going to miss you. I'm glad I still get to see you on Sundays.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to see more of this conversation, come and join us on Sundays at 5, Sundays between 5 and 7.
Yes. The Mighty Companions air at 5 p.m. Eastern on Sundays. And then we do Something Genuine with Reverend Jacquelyn and Eckert at 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
2-hour extravaganza of love and light.
We would be remiss if we did not thank Miss Shauna for adminning for us.
Absolutely. Thank you for picking up Fridays. Shall we?
You've been listening to Herein Lies the Peace of God with Reverend Jacquelyn Eckert and Reverend Glen
Ganaway. To find out more about Jacquelyn and to donate to Awakening Together Sanctuary, go to www.awakening-together.org. To find out more about Glen and to donate to the Mighty Companions Ministries, go to www.glenganaway.com. That's GLENGANAWAY.com.
I can see peace instead of pain.
And that's the show. Love you.
Love you. Bye, everybody.